No one on Earth had ever imagined that the first undeniable proof of a simulated universe would appear in the sky. It began at 4:17 a.m. UTC, a time when half the planet slept and the other half rushed through busy cities. The sky was clear, calm, ordinary, until it wasn't. At first, only a few pilots noticed it. A commercial flight cruising over the Pacific reported a strange phenomenon. A square patch of sky, perfectly geometric, hovering above the clouds like a giant translucent screen. Not a cloud, not a reflection. A pixelated square. The co-pilot zoomed his camera. It wasn't natural. The edges were too sharp, the grid too precise. And the colors, they were not gradients like a normal sky. They shifted in blocks, just like a computer display struggling to render an image. Minutes later, more reports poured in. From Alaska, from Japan, from Chile, from Morocco. People weren't seeing clouds, stars, or auroras. They were seeing pixels. The entire sky, the dome that humanity trusted since the beginning of time, was glitching. At 4:19 a.m., the first major glitch occurred. A piece of the morning sky flickered, turning black for exactly 0.8 seconds. Cities below went silent, drivers stopped. Birds froze mid-flight and changed direction. And then the sky reloaded. Colors sharpened, clouds re-rendered. The moon blinked twice as if refreshing. It looked less like nature, and more like a simulation trying to fix an error. By 4:26 a.m., social media exploded. The hashtag #SkyIsGlitching reached 200 million impressions in under 12 minutes. But government stayed silent. Behind the scenes, emergency satellite teams saw something worse. The glitch wasn't in the sky. It was in the atmosphere, in space, in the data of reality itself. One satellite captured a frame-by-frame sequence where the sky's texture appeared to peel back, revealing a grid-like mesh, as if the universe was built on code. And at 4:32 a.m., the world received a broadcast. Not from a satellite, not from any country. From the sky itself. A message formed across the clouds, glowing in crisp, unnatural clarity, like text on a digital screen. System warning. Reality integrity compromised. Humanity froze. Was this a malfunction of the universe? Or a message from whoever built it? The glitch was just beginning. For the first few hours, most people assumed the strange geometric clouds were nothing more than some rare atmospheric event. Meteorologists were the first to panic, privately. Behind studio cameras, they smiled calmly. But in their internal chat room, every expert used the same word: impossible. Because satellite data showed something no cloud should ever do. The shapes were rendering, not forming. Rendering. Each frame captured by weather satellites revealed tiny square artifacts as if the sky was loading pixel by pixel. What was even more terrifying, the cloud geometry sharpened every minute. First triangles, then hexagons, then perfect cubes, floating, drifting, dissolving like data blocks in the wind. At 11:02 a.m. UTC, NASA quietly contacted every major space agency. A meeting was arranged in the fastest emergency protocol ever used, even faster than during asteroid threats. Inside that virtual meeting, the European Space Agency presented the first horrifying clue. The sky's color gradient had shifted. Normally, the sky displays billions of light-scattering variations, but today, there were exactly 256 gradient steps from horizon to zenith, 256x, a classic digital color depth. It was as if someone had turned Earth's atmosphere into an 8-bit render. Before anyone could process the meaning, a Japanese observatory presented even worse data. The stars had shifted by a fraction, not the Earth. The stars, like a background layer being nudged by a careless designer. At 11:37 a.m. UTC, the world's major governments held emergency calls with their military branches. They assumed a secret weapon, a satellite malfunction, a global hack. But none could explain the most terrifying proof of all. At noon, every camera, from phones to professional cinema gear, caught a glitch in the sky at the exact same moment. One pixel. Just one. A bright teal square blinked into existence for 0.03 seconds. And then the sky instantly recalculated. The glitch vanished like an error corrected. This single pixel was enough to prove something unthinkable. It wasn't a camera glitch. It wasn't an optical illusion. It was the sky itself malfunctioning. Humans weren't viewing a glitch. Humans were inside the glitch. By 12:10 p.m., the U.S. National Solar Observatory finally said aloud what everyone else was too afraid to. It looks like the environment is being rewritten. A silence spread across the global meeting. Rewritten by who? Rewritten for what purpose? And, the most terrifying possibility, had it happened before without anyone noticing? But before any conclusion could be made, something new began happening above Earth. The cubes in the sky stopped moving. And then, slowly, they began arranging themselves into a pattern that wasn't random. It looked like something was trying to communicate. Something that understood code. Something that understood Earth was watching. Something intelligent. When the images stabilized, nights that had once been random and alive now looked like an edited reel. People noticed it first on their phones. Footage they had taken showed not the smooth randomness of real weather, but a frame-by-frame consistency, a repeated brushstroke. The auroras looped, the cloud eddies repeated with lockstep precision. Even the flicker of distant city lights carried a tiny, identical artifact, a pulsing pixel that flared at exactly the same beat in every clip. Labs that had once argued about noise and error now agreed on one grim fact. The sky was no longer behaving like a natural system. It behaved like a render, a network of volunteers, coders, amateur radio operators, astrophotographers, formed within hours and began pooling raw footage and telemetry. They ran cross-correlations on millions of frames and found the same signature embedded beneath the visual data. A narrow band modulation, like a watermark, but with far more structure. When they mapped it in 3 dimensions, the watermark formed a lattice, a scaffold of repeating nodes and connecting lines, superimposed on the sky like the skeleton of an invisible city. Governments tried to silence the chatter, issuing calm statements about instrument recalibration, but the web was already awake. A hacked feed from an observatory in Chile released a clip that froze the world. A flock of starlings, mid-murmuration, folded inward until their silhouettes pixelated into hexagonal tiles, then reassembled a second later into perfect birds again. The clip went viral not for fear but for the cognitive shock it carried. The recognition that living motion could be compressed, rendered, and replayed. Next came the instruments that didn't lie. Lighter sweeps of the upper atmosphere returned patterns inconsistent with physical particles. Instead of continuous distributions you'd expect from gas and dust, technicians measured discrete planes of reflectivity, flat, ordered sheets like glass panes stacked at precise intervals. Radio arrays that once read thermal noise now registered bursts of binary-like pulses riding on cosmic background. It was as if an engine of enormous scale had started buffering the sky. The philosophical argument began to leak into the forums and think tanks. If reality could exhibit cache artifacts and watermark-like signatures, then the distinction between simulation and substrate blurred. Was the sky an emergent property of a computation? Or had some outside observer simply begun to stream a higher definition layer over our world? Theologians invoked texts that had long described the heavens as recorded or inscribed. Physicists spat back with equations, and in between the posturing and the equations, the people at the edge of the network found a smaller, colder truth. The lattice they'd uncovered was not random. It was addressing something. Each node echoed a sequence of phase intervals that, when converted into prime gaps, pointed to a coordinate set. Not in space, but in time. Time coordinates. When the conversion ran, one number repeated across the lattice like a refrain. 2038, 1102. 03 on 1408 UTC. It should have been dismissed as a coincidence. Instead, it landed like an accusation. The lattice, the watermark, the sky's pixelation. It was preparing for a timestamp. And the world realized in a way that went beyond fear and toward stunned expectancy that the sky was cueing memory. Whoever was streaming the layer was not just editing visuals. It was scheduling an event anchored to a second and a date. An arrival time. The volunteers watching those frames in a basement in Berlin, in a garage in Lahore, and at a hilltop in Kyoto shared the same impulse, to keep watching. Because when the network replayed the segments that matched the timestamp, subtle changes trembled across the lattice. A shudder, a breath, a pulse like a hand now pressing replay. And the world, for the first time since the sky began to glitch, braced for what would happen when the frame at 3:14:08 finally rendered. The next 40 minutes became the most recorded, analyzed, and replayed segment in human history. As the sky's digital grid kept pulsing, world governments activated Protocol Zero, a global emergency signal meant only for existential threats. Satellites were recalibrated, deep space antennas were aligned, and every observatory on Earth turned its eyes upward. But none of them were prepared for what happened next. At 0312 UTC, the sky didn't just glitch, it fractured. Thin, shimmering cracks spread across the clouds like someone had tapped the sky with a cosmic hammer. Each crack glowed with a neon blue hue, and every time one appeared, a faint vibration passed through the atmosphere, almost like the world was standing on a giant speaker. People across the planet froze. Birds stopped mid-flight, waves paused mid-crest. Even the wind seemed to hesitate. Then came the sound, a low, rumbling tone, deeper than thunder, older than language. It vibrated inside the human chest rather than the ears, and for the first time, Earth heard a voice. Not a human voice, not an alien voice, something else. Something layered, mechanical yet alive, ancient yet futuristic. The voice spoke in a rhythmic pulse like an encrypted broadcast, and although no one could understand the words, every human felt the meaning. Your reality is unstable. A correction is underway. Panic erupted. Phones crashed. Internet signals flickered. Entire cities lost power. But inside the chaos, scientists from CERN detected something extraordinary. A gravitational resonance, identical to the signature they had once theorized might appear if the foundation layer of the universe was being adjusted. In other words, the universe wasn't breaking. It was being patched. Across the Pacific, the grid pattern in the sky shifted again, this time forming a perfect circle. It opened like a lens, revealing a swirling pixelated void behind it, darker than space, illuminated only by billions of tiny luminous fragments. Data fragments. Humanity was staring at the operating core of its own reality. Then something emerged. A shape, not physical, not biological, but a holographic construct like a floating geometric intelligence. It pulsed in sync with the planet's magnetic field as if reading the Earth itself. And then the transmissions intensified. Every screen on the planet, TVs, phones, even blank monitors, flashed the same message simultaneously. Do not interfere. The system is stabilizing. Observation mode activated. Governments panicked. Military scrambled. But the holographic entity simply hovered in the sky like a cosmic guardian. Scientists quickly named it the Overseer. And while humanity watched in fear and awe, the cracks in the sky began to widen. Because the real correction had just begun. Humanity stood beneath a sky that no longer behaved like a sky. Stars rearranged themselves with deliberate precision. The moon flickered like a faulty bulb, and the clouds moved in straight geometric lines, as if someone had switched the world into developer mode. The final glitch began at 3:17 a.m. A thin, glowing rectangular outline appeared in the sky. Perfectly symmetric, perfectly still. It wasn't a portal, it wasn't a spacecraft. It looked like a cursor waiting for someone to type. Then the message arrived, not in sound, not in lights, but directly inside every human mind at the same time. The test is nearly complete. Billions froze, no one could breathe. No one could think. The message continued. You were designed to evolve beyond your world, Andrew, and now you stand at the threshold. Across the planet, digital clocks stopped. Birds paused mid-flight. Oceans flattened, becoming still as polished glass. Humanity wasn't inside a simulation. Humanity was the simulation. A long-running cosmic experiment built to answer one question. If intelligence is given free will it choose creation or destruction? Everyone expected judgment, punishment, a reset, but instead something unexpected happened. The sky dimmed, the glitching slowed, and the final message appeared. The system is now yours. With that, the sky restored itself. Stars returned to their original patterns. Winds resumed, the oceans breathed again. The rectangular cursor dissolved into a million fragments of light, scattering like fireflies across the horizon. And Earth understood the truth. There was no overseer anymore. No unseen architect, no simulation boundaries. Humanity had been handed the source code of its own reality. What we do next, what we build, what we become, that is the real test. And for the first time in history, we are no longer players inside the world. We are the ones shaping it. The documentary ends with one final line. When the sky turned digital, humanity awakened. The simulation didn't glitch, it evolved.